Good morning. It is Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. Back here for another daily shakeup. Of course, the topic is leadership. And as some of you know, if you know me well, I consider myself a really good listener, not just in conversations, but I listen to what's going around me. And what's popped up in the last 24 hours is the series Band of Brothers. And I wanted to speak to it. I've spoken to it before, but maybe from a slightly different or more focused perspective. It showed up in a post that a friend of mine sent around the movie Band of Brothers or the movie series, as well as the movie Saving Private Ryan and all the leadership lessons in it. And I have said for decades, well, yeah, coming up on 20 years now, over 20 years, the Band of Brothers is to me like a leadership playbook for business and life that's laid out in front of us through the leadership of Major Dick Winters, who's the featured character in the series. And someone on a call today brought up this series again and how they saw it as such an important leadership guidepost or guidebook for ways to show up differently in our leadership. Still a believer, a big fan of Dick Winters, who sadly passed away a number of years ago. But here's the part that I wanted to focus on. A number of years ago, I had the opportunity to meet one of the men that served with Dick Winters during World War II, a man by the name of, his nickname is Wild Bill Guarnier. He lost his leg at the Battle of Bastogne, and I met him years and years later when he had written a book with another one of his band of brothers, Babe Heffron. And I had a chance to meet them at a book signing, and I asked Bill Guarnier this question. What are your thoughts on Dick Winters, Major Dick Winters? And his response didn't surprise me, but it really touched me. And he said, Dick Winters is not only the finest leader I've ever known, he's the finest person I've ever known. And he went on to say that none of us would be here alive today if it wasn't for Major Winters. And he talked about the respect the men had for him to the point that whether he was around or not, no one ever joked about him because they saw him as such a person they lifted up and saw as such a respected human and leader. Well, all of that is to set up this question. What if we flip that? While Bill Garnier said that Dick Winters was the finest leader and the finest human or person he'd ever known. Well, what if that was really the answer? What if Dick Winters was the leader he was because of the type of person he was? I certainly believe that. My leadership work, leadership development, coaching, mentoring has always been focused on how do I grow as a person and how do I help others grow as a person in order to therefore grow as a leader. I think too often we're focused on leadership skills and traits and we forget to work on the person. Most important, we forget to work on ourselves. So if you want to grow yourself as a leader, if you want to grow your team members as leaders, let's focus on growing ourselves first and then helping the others around us grow as people and as humans. And the leadership will follow from that. Yes, we need some honing, we need some skills, some tactics, but ultimately, leadership externally starts with the person that's grown internally. Do the work in here, folks. That's what leadership development is really about. And that's what makes a difference, not just in our organizations, but in our world. That's it for today. Have a fantastic Tuesday. Share, like, comment, spread the word, get the conversation going about leadership, growth, and impact.